Okay, so we're only just going to spend a few minutes looking at the key findings from the study, because of course all of the detail is in the wonderful report that you've all just been given a copy of, literally hot off the press. And don't worry, we're not going to go through it page by page. We're really just going to run through the top level findings, because this will enable us to really just start the discussion, which is I'm sure what you're here for, especially with our panel. Because we really see tonight is really about your contribution and insight and adding to what we think is just the beginning of this piece of work.
We're just going to quickly run through how the study was conducted. So the research was conducted by Loudhouse Marketing and Research during September and October of 2012 this year. And the survey sample included two groups, a representative cross-section of over 400 UK-based female middle managers and 200 HR leaders working in the same organisations. In-depth qualitative telephone interviews with 10 respondents from each group then illustrated the survey data with examples and personal experiences. Now, middle managers were defined as meeting the following criteria. They have responsibility for teams or budgets and projects. Their role includes implementing strategy and plans determined at a higher level, and they are accountable to senior management.
So yeah, and to provide insights into the range really of different experiences, we split the sample across SMEs, which were organisations with 50 to 250 employees, and corporates, which were classified as 750 plus employees. And we did it across 4 key sectors, the STEM sectors, science, technology and manufacturing, retail, professional services and finance. But we're not going to touch on that tonight, but at the back of the report there's really interesting differences between those sectors. So, key findings. Really, we uncovered 5 key findings. The key one around the business case for gender diversity. There's a real missing link in the diversity story that the organisations are telling, really. And only 40% of the HR leaders surveyed sought improved business performance as a key benefit of increasing a number of women in their senior roles. They cited achieving cultural change and attracting more female applicants much more readily than they did against business performance. Not having the business case as an overriding benefit to companies may also account, when you read the report, for the fact that 60% of the companies have absolutely no diversity budget, and of those that do, only 22% is ring-fenced for gender.
So our research highlighted some striking differences between HR leaders' views and the concerns of the female middle managers, with 81% of female middle managers citing lack of progression as a problem for them, but only 62% of HR leaders in agreement with that. 56% of female middle managers want to be promoted in the next 2 years, while HR leaders think that only 35% of them are actually looking for this. And the biggest misalignment was that 75% of female middle managers think they will progress to a more senior role, while HR leaders believe that only 27% of those will.
What we uncovered was that many of the female middle managers do not push themselves forward, and I know many of you know this, we've talked about it many times, and they underestimate just how much personal responsibility they need to take overall for developing their careers. Many really expect their employers to take much, if not all, some of them said all, of the responsibility for career path clarity and their opportunities for progression. And on the other hand, 63% of the HR leaders said they want to see women driving their advancement themselves. So there's a key issue there that we can discuss.
And from the survey, 74% of female middle managers were satisfied with the level of flexibility available in their current job. And we thought that was a little surprising, that stat, but after digging deeper, we discovered that 67% of this sample did not actually have any children at home, and 94% of the sample were working full-time. And both HR leaders and female middle managers agreed that individual or lifestyle decisions are the main factors holding women back. So it appears that women with children who cannot achieve the work-life balance that they want may already have left before reaching this middle management level. It's almost as if they're self-selecting themselves out of promotion. The perception of senior roles is that A, they are full-time, and B, they don't offer flexibility within them.
And finally, the last bit is around the role models, which is something that's very close to our heart, and it's been talked about. Alex mentioned it too, and it is so vital. Role models across any group. We all know this, but there still seems to be a lack of really good female role models across the organisation. And yet the female middle managers said that they see this as a very, very powerful means to them motivating their progressions. And this is where we had agreement. The HR leaders agreed with that. And yet, 40% of female middle managers feel that senior women are not helping other women progress, and only 16% of HR leaders felt this. And the 65% of HR leaders think that their senior women support female middle managers with face-to-face help, with only 36% of the female middle managers agreeing with it. So I think there's some real points here that we're going to be able to discuss. And as many of you know, some senior women may not always be seen to present themselves or be seen as the best of role models. If individuals are perceived as unrepresentative in terms of their personal style, their work-life balance, their issues, the female middle managers are just not engaging with them. So I think one of the things we can really talk about and think about is how do we ensure that we have role models right up and down organisations that are more touchable to different levels of women in middle management.
So in summary, we've determined that great headway could be made, but there's some things that we probably need to look at. Starting with number one, putting a focus on the business case for gender diversity, having everyone in the organisation understanding the business critical issue and what it means within their company. Secondly, creating a better understanding and alignment between HR leaders and the female middle managers, specifically around their career ambitions. And this is where we've always believed there to be key differences between the feelings, thoughts and behaviours of men and women, as we talked about that small but critical difference at the beginning of the report. The report very strongly highlights that women are not putting themselves forward even though they have aspirations to be promoted. And consequently, these ambitions are being overlooked. Additionally, women are not recognising the need to take responsibility for their own development and advancement, and this is something that I think that we can all do something about.
And of course, we all know that flexibility is a big issue, but it appears that there needs to be a much better understanding about where and how flexible working options are affected in the workplace. It appears that the majority of female managers are still working full-time and not accessing flexible options if they are available, or indeed if they're not. So we think that we need to really reshape and put much more emphasis and maybe frameworks around female role models and mobilising and getting them more accessible and uncovered. And as I said before, just getting those across different levels, rather than I think what we see a lot of is that the senior executive board are wheeled out and they're told about how they've managed to create their successful career, and somebody who's maybe at the entry point is finding big distance between that.